Hi guys, so today I'm going to be sharing my tips on nausea and vomiting. I don't want to sound big-headed, but I do consider myself quite an expert on this one. Not really something to brag about, but I have had more than my fair share of experience. And I also wanted to say that I'm very much aware that a lot of people can't eat because they're either tube fed or they find it difficult to eat. So some of these things will be practical tips that everyone can do, or just things that you don't have to be able to eat to be able to improve your nausea and vomiting. I'm also going to be talking a bit about meds, but these are meds that you can get over the counter and ones that I've found really beneficial, because sometimes doctors aren't the most helpful. For a long time doctors were not willing to help me, and at my worst I was 2 stone lighter than I was now and I was really struggling, but there are things over the counter that can help. So if your doctors aren't being helpful yet or at the moment, then hopefully there's something in this video for everyone. And also I want you to feel free to post your own helpful tips for people below in the comments. That would be fantastic too. So I thought I would start with the first one, and that is an over-the-counter medication. So it's called Bucostem and it's a buccal tablet, which means it goes under your lip. You don't have to swallow it. It's orodispersible, so it just gets absorbed into your gums and it works that way. This medication is actually for nausea and vomiting associated with migraine, but actually for any type of sickness it's really helpful for that. I know some people have found it even more helpful than medically prescribed anti-sickness medications, so it is pretty good and you can get this over the counter. So the medication name is prochlorperazine, but you can find it under the over the counter name Bucostem, and then you can see the photo here. Also, if you experience vertigo and dizziness, that one is another great one. And of course, if migraine is the cause for your sickness, then that one is perfect. The next one, and this is the last over-the-counter medication I'm going to talk about, again I'll insert a photo. This is called promethazine hydrochloride and it also goes by the name Phenergan. This one is really helpful for nausea and vomiting at night. It also does make you feel quite drowsy, so if you have a lot of sickness at night, this can stop the sickness and also help you stay asleep and so you're not woken up by it. I had this one prescribed and then my dad went in and they said to him that you could actually buy it and it was cheaper that way, so you can get it over the counter. With both of these things I would say you don't really want to be on them long term, so just to use them when you're in a flare up or when you're having really bad days. I am prescribed those ones, so I have them under the guidance of a doctor, but you can get them over the counter, so just for your worst days I think those are some really good things to look into. Next I wanted to talk about some practical things you can do to help you. So the first one is to wear these travel bands. So these are called C-bands and I'll probably have to insert a photo again, but they have a little ball in the band and that presses on a pressure point, so it's a form of acupressure, and actually I've found them really helpful. So I do think it's something to look into, especially if you're not at the point where you're being sick and you're just feeling quite nauseous every day. They're quite a good thing to have. And then my second tip is to always have sickness bags with you when you're out, especially if you know that you might need them. So I just use nappy bags, so these are the ones I use. Again, it's very bright, so another photo. I just get the Tesco's nappy bags and then I don't use them in the house, so obviously there's the whole thing about plastic at the moment, but if you're out and about and you need something like this, I think it's absolutely okay to use it. You can just keep them in your bags, and then if you don't use them it's not a waste because you haven't used them, and if you do use them plastic consumption is the least of your worries if you're being sick when you're out. So having something like that, even if you're not sick, it can be sort of like a safety blanket and you might feel more comfortable to go out and do things knowing that you're not going to be caught off guard. I forgot to get mine out to show you, but the next thing to use is a heating pad, especially if you get a lot of stomach pain associated with your nausea and vomiting. This can help to ease the cramps a little bit, and I haven't tried them myself, but if your nausea does get to the point where you're actually being sick, I know a lot of people find things like Gaviscon or you can get throat numbing sprays or also throat sweets, really helpful to deal with that burning acidic feeling that you get afterwards. So if you are being sick, something like that can help you if you're dealing with sort of throat pain associated with that. Not very nice, but especially Gaviscon, which is meant for that acid sort of feeling and problem, then that can be good as well. I also wanted to say I wasn't really sure where to draw the line from common sense and what was a helpful tip, but of course eating little and often, or only when you feel that you're able to, is also going to be helpful. And then the next section I wanted to go on to is natural remedies. And I don't want you to be scared off by this, because a lot of natural remedies we don't think of as being extremely beneficial, but if you think about it, even medications often come from like a plant source or something, so a lot of things are actually pretty natural anyway. Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's not going to work, so please do give them a chance. The first two are both pretty obvious, and that would be peppermint and ginger. So for ginger, I found the best way is to just cut up a thumb of ginger, put it in some boiling water, add a sweetener if you can stomach it, and then just sip the ginger tea that way. The boxes I haven't found to be as helpful, and so you really are best to make your own ginger tea. You can also get crystallised ginger, ginger biscuits, and you can get these things called Queasy Pops. You'll have to look into that because I haven't tried that one. And then peppermint, I found that the actual mint sort of sweets, they're really good. In line with that, a lot of people find diffusing essential oils helpful, or using them in different ways. This is one that I don't have experience with, but if it's something you'd like to look into, I think it's definitely worth a shot. And the next few things are diets. Now, I wouldn't recommend these for long term, but if you're in a flare-up or you're just feeling especially unwell, then I think it could be helpful to try it. So there's a couple that I can recommend. The first one is the low FODMAP diet. This is really for people that have IBS type symptoms, but if you're dealing with nausea and vomiting, sometimes all of that is quite interlinked, and these foods are a lot easier on your digestive system anyway. So I've given you the name of it, you'll have to look into it to see what foods it advises. And then the next diet is called the BRAT diet, and it stands for bananas, rice, applesauce, which is more of an American thing. We don't tend to just sit there and eat applesauce here. Applesauce and toast, but of course it can be similar things like crackers would also be okay. That's the diet for if you have like a sickness bug, so it's not recommended for long term, but if you're having a really difficult few days, then one of those diets could be quite helpful to you. And the last diet is especially for gastroparesis, and that's a liquids or soft foods diet. I haven't really done this one myself. I get nauseous and sick up to a point where I then need to eat again, and then I don't know. Mine fluctuates, where sometimes eating is helpful and sometimes it's the worst. For 2 years, I don't recommend this, but for 2 years I was sick for like 6 hours a day, multiple times, and during that time I could really only eat crackers. So wasn't great, but there is an element of following your body's instincts, as that can be helpful. And the last one, a lot of people find drinking Coke, and specifically the diet and zero varieties, very helpful. The reasoning behind that is that they've got an artificial sweetener that is quite, I don't want to say toxic, but it can make you quite sick. And so supposedly they have antiemetics, which means an anti-sickness, in those drinks to stop you feeling sick when you drink them. And so a lot of people find the antiemetic in that really helpful. So they're my tips. Please leave me yours below. I probably have a lot more that I just haven't thought of, because this has become a way of life that I didn't choose, but it is just my life, and so I don't really think about all of these little things that I'm doing anymore. So please leave your tips below. I hope something from this list helps you. I did want to remind you to persevere at your doctors. It doesn't matter how many people have said no or have, you know, not looked into it. Just keep trying, keep going back and saying, this is a problem, this is really affecting my quality of life, and hopefully you will get somewhere eventually. So thank you so much for watching. Bye!